Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove in 30 Days of Goddess, and today I have the 3 Cauldrons layout from Womanrunes, and this layout is available to you for free in our Samhain card layout newsletter. But for this one, so this is a 1 to 2 minute little ritual for you today, but the 3 cauldrons are the Cauldron of Vitality, Connection, and Contribution. So we look at, with vitality, we look at how our bodies are doing, like how do we feel in our physical form, and then you choose the card to remind you of something, what do you need to tend to that cauldron of vitality? What do you need to tend to the cauldron of the vitality? So the card isn't necessarily telling you something about your vitality, it's more like what do you need to tend to that cauldron? And so I got the cauldron. Sometimes when I have a really thematic layout like this, I withhold the card around which the layout is themed so that you don't end up with sort of mixed up kind of messages. But this time I left it in, and hey, guess what? My vitality cauldron really does need some cauldron energy, some space holding, some alchemy of transformation, some stewing and brewing and bubbling and creating. And then the cauldron of connection is how are you connecting to others? What are you offering? What are you dishing out? Or actually, that's not dishing out. This one's dishing out. What are you what are you creating in connection with other people? And then what do you need to keep that cauldron of your life tended? So I got the serpent here, the rune of awakening, and I like how they kind of went together with Womanrunes. You can combine them into a bind rune. So putting the serpent into the cauldron to me feels really powerful. Like I'm steeping something that can then spiral out and awaken, raising glittering eyes to meet yours. And then the cauldron of contribution is, essentially like what's your work in the world? What are you doing? What are you putting out there? What are you dishing up? And how do you feel about that? Do you need more support? Do you need encouragement? Do you need stability? Do you need a fresh outlook? Do you need a different flavor? Like what do you need in this cauldron of contribution? How do you need to tend it? And so for me, I got the broom, which is the rune of purification, clean, sweep, and cleansing. And I think that's really appropriate as the year draws to a close. Like what that cauldron, if that cauldron space is getting dusty, or dinged up, like what needs to be swept out of it? What work can you leave behind from this last year? Like what work were you doing that can be left behind? What project is finished and can be laid aside? What are you wrapping up, and finishing? But then also evaluating, like, what do you want to offer going forward? Do you want to change something? Do you want to do something different? Like what is your contribution looking like going forward? So this end of the year time is perfect for making a sweep around the cauldron and changing your work. And then I have been working with Sacred Traveler Oracle by Denise Lynn, and I'm planning to work with it this whole month. I have an extra little Oracle card book that goes with it from a deck that I split up and gave away to other people. So I have the book left behind, and that's it. And I'm actually going to tear up the book and get the page and the meaning out for my 30 Days of Goddess prayer book each day with that. So I'll put it in. This video is going to be a little bit longer than some of my others, and I'm just going to be okay with that. But see how I took the card I cut it out, and then I took the image from the book and I made it into a little tiny booklet with the meaning inside, and then some other relevant little prayers, and put them into my pocket from yesterday. And so I'm going to do that probably each day. I don't like to bind myself too tightly to something that I have to do, because the more something becomes obligatory, the less joy there is in it. And so one of the things about 30 Days of Goddess to me that is powerful is that it's an overall container, but there isn't a have to. And so if you find that your container is starting to feel, if your cauldron is starting to feel obligatory, tight, and like you have to, then it's time to change something about that, because we don't want these daily practices. While there's such intense power in the showing up and the daily presence, there should be no force involved or have to involved. It's about tending to you and your space in the world and not about forcing yourself to do something. So anyway, from Sacred Traveler Oracle, we got navigating by the stars. So follow your bliss and trust your heart, and trust that intuition to guide you. What would nourish me today? What brings me joy today? What feels good? I think sometimes in society we are kind of taught to mistrust feeling good, or we skew so far to that side of only feeling good that it leads to different addictions and that kind of stuff too. Not that, addiction has complicated and is physically physical illness and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not minimizing that, but that following only the feels good path sometimes can lead people into disaster. But I think as an overall whole in our culture, we have like a suspicion sometimes of doing things based on the fact that they feel good. So does this feel good to me right now? And I'm talking feel good in a way that's, soul nourishing and bone deep, and not like feels good like eating a whole bag of Skittles, which doesn't really feel good in the end. Like, how does it feel in your body? So anyway, follow your bliss. And then, oh my gosh, 6 minutes, not 2 minutes. I have a little card from my own, one of my own printables for today. May you allow threads of the sacred and breaths of the holy, whispers of magic and scraps of beauty to curl around you to nourish you and to create a gentle nest in which you can be held, while also reaching out fingers both brave and trembling to touch the pulsing world. May you be restored to center. May you be filled with the pleasure of being alive. So you may wish to just lay a hand on your heart and pause for a moment to breathe and let that prayer sink into you. Threads of the sacred and breaths of the holy curling around you right where you are. Thanks for being here.